We are live, Natasha.
This is super exciting. So welcome everyone who's watching this video, and this is a great time for us to be doing a video. Anju and I are a part of the Red Pen. We're part of the MBA admission service of the Red Pen, and the conversation that we want to really have today is explore different conversations that we have with potential MBA applicants every year. We thought it would be a great idea for both of us to have a conversation around some of the frequently asked questions. And it would be great, no matter where you're joining from, to add questions that you have for us to the chat box, because I'm sure that if you're thinking about applying to business school in round two, you're thinking of Jan deadlines, you're thinking of some of the early Feb deadlines for European schools, you'll have a lot of questions right now. So take this opportunity, add your questions to the Q&A box, and if we don't get to it in the conversation, we're going to pick it up after our conversation. In the comment box, there is also contact details. We'll share contact details if you want to reach out to us after the webinar and continue the conversation. Another thing that I would recommend is to like this video on YouTube. It will help you come back. You can bookmark it, come back to it, and it will just mean that we're just that much more accessible. So let's talk about what we plan to cover during this conversation. During this conversation, Anju and I are going to cover various elements of the planning that you need to do. You may have questions at this point about how many schools you need to apply to, which geography you need to consider, what are the headlines that are going around right now, and what do you need to take away from that. And we'll address all these elements. We'll cover planning, we'll cover applications, we'll cover some of the questions you may have about individual components. With that said, I think this year is really shaping up to be an extremely different year for MBA admissions. There are a lot of headlines which may cause anxiety, or sometimes
Natasha, I'm sorry, I just need to interject. Can everyone hear Natasha? Natasha, there seems to be a little bit of
a lag.
lead. Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag. So
Cool.
I hope everyone can hear Natasha. Natasha is very clear. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the headlines, and let's start by first thinking about the questions that would be on your mind right now. And the first question that everyone will typically come back to us about will be, what should their round two strategy be at this point in time? Are there things that they need to be thinking about? What should they prioritize? And I think I want to tailor this particular answer to the situation that exists for on top of mind for any MBA applicant. The first piece of advice that I typically will give someone is round two strategies need to be enduring. It is very tempting to respond or to react to headlines that you're seeing in the press, on social media. And you may be responding to news around hiring trends. You may be responding to news around visas and the situation with what happens once you graduate. But I think it's important to realize that the value of the MBA is really going to be enduring. You need to think long term, and you need to look beyond immediate concerns or immediate questions that come to mind. If you are investing in an MBA from a global program, you're not really thinking only about the next 24 months. You're thinking about what it means to you. And what it means to you is typically what it adds to your brand equity, how it accelerates your career, how does it provide you with a network which will compound over the coming decades. So you need to think about long-term impact of the choices that you make at this point in time. If you are thinking of applying in round two, you're thinking of a really condensed timeline. Most round two deadlines are less than 10 weeks away. So you need to have a strategy that takes into account geography. It will be an opportunity this year to think outside of the US, to also research schools in Canada, in Europe, the UK, Singapore, and even India. You want to set yourself realistic goals, because within a 10-week period, you need to think about how you can do justice and really put forward your strongest application yet. The primary focus needs to be on researching the schools and creating a really strong application which delves into the way your goals are structured, your short-term goals, your long-term goals, and how the school really addresses the gaps that you see in your profile. So, with that said, I think we will now go to the next question and
Yeah.
on everyone's mind, which is really, how do I
How
select the
to
schools I
finance.
want to apply to?
Okay.
Anju?
All right. Yeah, I was actually going to talk about how to finance your MBA. Now that you've told them how to strategize for round two applications, let's talk about financing your MBA and scholarships, which is something that which is on everybody's mind, right? So let's talk about scholarships. Schools have different kinds of scholarships, and candidates typically ask us questions like, how do I become eligible for a scholarship? um, Schools have different kinds of scholarships. Merit based scholarships are open to everyone, and most schools across the board offer merit based scholarships, right? And you are automatically eligible for the merit based scholarships. Schools like Wharton, MIT Sloan, NYU Stern all offer merit based scholarships. Then we have something called the need based scholarship, which is normally evaluated once you are admitted. So, Harvard Business School and Stanford GSB exclusively give you need based scholarships. Schools like Columbia Business School and UVA Darden give you both merit and need based scholarships. Here, you need to demonstrate your need, and the school will try and bridge the gap that you have. When I say bridge the gap, what I essentially mean is the difference between what you can put in to your MBA, to finance your MBA, and what you need over and above that. Then there are diversity and inclusion scholarships, which are primarily for underrepresented communities and also international students. For instance, the Forte Fellowship, which is offered by UVA Darden, UC Berkeley, Stanford GSP, and it's typically announced along with the admit. Also, the merit based scholarships are normally announced along with your admit. Okay. Schools also have school-specific name scholarships, like the Keller Scholarship by the Fuqua School of Business, Dean Scholarship by NYU Stern. Again, these are scholarships that are announced along with the admit. There are other scholarships for leadership, for geographical scholarships. Some for the merit-based scholarships, you become eligible at the point of application. For other scholarships, you're normally eligible once you get an admit. So you don't really have to do anything at the point of admit. There are, of course, some schools like INSEAD where you become eligible to apply for a scholarship once you've been invited to interview, but that's an anomaly. Okay. Having said that, let's Natasha, is there anything else that you would like to add on
No,
the
I
scholarship bit?
do. Yeah. So I think one of the things that I would want to mention is it's important to understand the process of scholarships. But if you are planning to apply for an MBA, you need to understand that a lot of these decisions will not happen, or you will not be in a position to influence these decisions before you actually submit your application. So it's important to be realistic. It's great if you get a scholarship on merit or on on the basis of a specific qualification that you fulfill. But at the end of the day, your school selection and where you plan to go along with the scholarship, these are very, very distinct decisions, and your selection of school cannot be only contingent on the quantum of scholarship that they could possibly provide, because those are elements or those are decisions which will come much later in the process.
Yeah, but the good news is that nearly half of candidates who apply to business school, and get admitted, do get some form of scholarship or the other. So there's really hope for most people. Now, having spoken about scholarships, let's talk about how should you select your schools. The schools that you should apply to. Natasha just mentioned, please don't select on the basis of the scholarships that are offered. So there are a whole lot of criteria that you should look at, and this is where researching the school becomes very important. School research is an extremely important part of the application process, something that is not given much weightage to by candidates, but it becomes very important, one, to identify whether you are a good fit for the program, and two, whether the program is equipped to help you achieve your goals, right? So there are a few things that you should look at. Physically, you should look at the location. Uh, do you want to be in the US? Do you want to be in Europe? Do you want to be in UK? You want to be in Asia? Which geography works best for you? You will need to see the cost of the MBA program. Uh, Even within a country, programs do not have the same tuition or living expenses. For instance, even if the tuition cost is more or less the same, the living expenses in New York will be a lot more than, let's say, if you are in Durham, or if you are in if you're studying in Virginia, right? So you need to see what the cost of an MBA is. Then you should also look at the class size and the diversity. Um, you need to identify what works for you. Are you comfortable in a very large classroom? For instance, HBS or Wharton, all of them have, both of these classes are 800 plus, have 800 plus candidates, right? Students. So are you comfortable being in such a large classroom, or do you want a small, compact classroom, where almost everybody, where you have a personal relationship with most of your peers? For instance, schools like Berkeley Haas or Dartmouth Tuck, you need to see what is a good fit for you. Um, Alignment with the school's culture and values is extremely important, right? It's a very important criteria to determine your fit for the program. So do research the culture and the ethos of the school, and see if that is aligned with the values that you have. The other thing that you should look at is the curriculum and faculty. Now, of course, most schools offer the same or similar curriculum, but certain schools are known for certain programs. For instance, if you want to be in the social impact space, then the Yale School of Management or the Berkeley Haas School MBA, it may probably be the right fit programs for you. Okay. Similarly, if you want to do a school, if you want to go to a MBA program that is well known for its finance programs, then maybe a Wharton or a Columbia Business School may work well for you. So similarly, if your focus is marketing, Kellogg is known to be a very strong marketing school. Now, it doesn't mean that other schools don't have these or offer these programs. They do offer all these streams, every stream possible, but some schools are known to have certain strengths. So identify those, and again, find alignment. Uh, Another very important point here is the alignment of your career goals with the resources that the schools have to offer. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, if your goals are in social impact, uh, schools like Berkeley Haas and Yale offer you very tailored solutions. But Yale is unique in that sense that you don't, in your final year, you don't even have to take a single class within the management program. You can go outside the program within the larger Yale community and take all your electives there, and it could be in a particular area of interest. Um, you also need to evaluate the kind of alumni networks that exist. Alumni networks are extremely important. One of the reasons why you go to business school is to get access to these networks. They play a very important role. while you're in school and thereafter as well. While you're in school, they can be your mentors, your guides. They can also, help you find internships and jobs. After you graduate, they can be your sounding board, and if there are certain alumni in influential positions, or in a position where they can help you with maybe raise funding for a startup, or provide you with mentorship. So therefore, all of these, research on all of these, identify a school or a set of schools that are a good fit for you, and yeah, apply. Please do not go only by rankings. Okay, that is extremely misleading, or of certain quote unquote names that you are aware of.
I actually want to add to that, Anju, because I feel that there's so much information and sometimes conflicting information out there about what is the right school for you, and it's important to realize that if you make a decision based on concrete data points, which align with goals, which align with your ambitions, it will be a much better experience when you are on campus, and that's something to consider because you're putting out a lot of money for a degree that is really going to open doors for you. So you need to have a school that is really aligned with what matters to you. Okay. The second thing I also want to mention is a lot of times rankings may be the first source of information that you get about the school, but it should not dictate the value that you attach to a particular program. You need to realize that when there are ranking systems, those ranking systems are not based exclusively on the kind of academic experience or the quality of academic experience that you can expect to have at these schools. Rankings are comprehensive. They take into account elements like funding. They take into account elements like, administrative, or like how many faculty may have research papers. There are a lot of factors that may have very little to do with the academic experience or the kind of on-campus experience you hope to have. You also need to remember that if you choose a program that's really aligned with your goals and your value system, your chances for being considered for scholarship, being considered for merit scholarships automatically increase. Merely applying to a school because it has a great ranking may not necessarily hold value for you in the long run. And again, when you talk about like your values or your ethos and the school's ethos, you need to remember that your way to demonstrate your ethos is really with your background, your experiences, the kind of insights that you have, the perspective you've developed professionally. So only saying that this is a school that I've always dreamed of and I really want to go there may not necessarily be the strongest pitch that you would make to business school. And having said that, I think Anju, yeah, I'm sorry, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to add one more thing that I think both of us probably did not touch upon. Do look at the post MBA employment prospects. Okay, at that school, go over their employment history. Look at the kind of companies that recruit there. If you want to be in a certain space and there is no company that recruits in that particular space for that school, I'm not sure if it is the right fit school for you. You know.
Yeah, I agree. And these elements are increasingly important because you're going to now need to fine tune your research. You need to understand what exactly you want to know about a program beyond its prestige, beyond its network, and a lot of these finer elements will help you gain more specific information about how it's going to be of use to you. I think the next thing that I really want to touch on is the role of standardized tests, because I think the most frequent question that we get around standardized tests, and we're not test prep experts, so typically when people come to us, it's because they have a score and they want to understand how that score is going to integrate into their larger MBA plans. But I think one of the most common questions that we get asked is, what is the weightage that's given to my standardized test score? Should I apply to Harvard because I'm now at the 99th percentile of my test score? Or are my chances to apply to a good program going to be reduced because I didn't do that great on the GRE or the GMAT. And you need to remember that there isn't really a linear question answer to this. Do your chances of being admitted to a great program hinge purely on your test scores? I think the short answer is no, they're not. And it is a holistic evaluation. Now, schools will always tell you that there is a holistic evaluation process, and it's important to understand what that means. A holistic evaluation process means that, they will look at indicators for success in the program. Some of those indicators will be based on the kind of work experience you have, whether you've received promotions, the kind of complexity and scale at which you work. And there are some other indicators for academic readiness. So this could be your undergraduate, the details of your undergraduate degree. What were the kind of subjects that you studied? Are they a good match for the kind of academic experiences you will have during the MBA program? They would want to understand what your CGPA is. And the test score is one data point on a larger scale of how you are evaluated. Getting a great score is definitely an advantage, but not being a great standardized test taker and having all those other data points in place is also something that should be a positive factor when you're applying to a great business school. I think the reverse question also is, will a great GMAT score really make up for the fact that I just didn't, have a great academic experience during my undergrad? And again, the answer is complex. You do need to realize that your GPA as well as your standardized test score, it have very different values within the academic
I think
goals.
Natasha is cutting off there. Natasha, you cut off for 30 seconds. Can you just repeat that?
Yeah. So if you have an undergraduate experience that wasn't the greatest academically, you need to ensure that you're providing a lot of alternative data to tell the school that maybe you work in an area where you're required to make a lot of database decisions, where your analytical skills are tested, and maybe you have a great test score that it may not compensate for your undergraduate degree, but it definitely indicates to the school that you have the chops to perform and to succeed in a really competitive program. Anju, anything else you want
I,
to add to that?
yeah, I mean, I'm just going to now talk. You've spoken about the GPA to some extent. So
Yeah,
let me add to the GPA part of it. Now, we've spoken about
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
GMAT or GRE, the standardized test. You know, if I have a low score or if I have a very high score. But what happens if your GPA is on the lower side? Okay.
Mm.
How can you strengthen your profile? Now, unfortunately, the thing with the GPA is it's done and dusted with. So you can't change anything about your GPA, unlike the standardized score, where you could probably take a couple of attempts and try and improve it. You cannot change your GPA. The GPA stays where it is. So, what can you do? One of the things, like Natasha mentioned, try and get a strong standardized test score, your GMAT or GRE score. Now, while they do showcase different things, but end of the day, an MBA program is an academic program. You might go there for the experiential learning opportunities, for the networking, but it is an academic program, and schools need to see that you have the ability to take the academic rigor of the program. So one of the things that they are going to look at is your GPA and how you've performed specifically in the quant focused courses during your undergrad. Now, if that for some reason is on the lower side, of course, one option is that you could explain it if there is an explanation, if there is a logical, credible explanation. Normally, there isn't. Okay. But if there is, you could give an explanation. But the other things that you could do is, as I said, one, get a strong standardized test score. You could demonstrate your strong quant abilities through your work experience, through the work that you've done in the past 2 or 3 or 4 years. Okay. You could also do additional coursework for instance, the MBA Math. You could also do the extension courses by UCLA, and UC Berkeley. You could do the, if you have a longer time period available, you could do the HBS core. Of course, all these courses require different levels of commitments in terms of time, effort, and of course, the money that it costs. So you need to see what works for you. But this, if you do some of these, one or more of these courses, it shows that you are preparing yourself for the rigor of the program. Okay, you're preparing yourself for the MBA program. The other thing that you could do is, through your essays, you could tell compelling stories, you could highlight your strengths, your professional achievements. And again, we keep repeating this, but yes, alignment with the school. Okay, strong recommendations with a focus on how you've brought your, quantitative abilities into the workplace will also work in your favor. Okay, so these are the things that you could do if your GPA is on the lower side.
Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize that your undergrad GPA is not something that you can modify. What you can do is control the situation around you today. And that situation is primarily focused on your work experience, your ability to intentionally provide other indicators of academic readiness, and to really focus on your test, if that may be the case. But that brings me to another point, and this is a related question that people typically ask
Yeah,
us, which is
and very very often asked question.
yeah,
And Natasha, I mean, I really would like you to talk about,
yes,
if people should quit their jobs to focus on their applications.
yeah,
We do know
yeah.
that applications are an extremely exhaustive process, and candidates tend to get overwhelmed. But I'll let you speak about this.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It is an extremely overwhelming experience to balance your day job with, MBA applications to your dream schools. And we know that. We see that every year when applicants are really struggling to balance all these responsibilities. But it is important to realize that it is not in your interest to quit your job while you are applying for your MBA. Schools want to understand, and they will really value someone who is able to balance responsibilities, is able to look at conflicting priorities and make decisions. And all of this, a live example is really balancing your MBA application with your day job. So telling a school that I quit my job because I wanted to focus on my applications makes them wonder whether you will be able to manage the kind of pressures that you will face at business school, where you will have multiple conflicting priorities to decide and to manage. And quitting is not an option at that point. So it's in your interest to not quit your job, and to really focus on giving time to applications. And I would say that the most important takeaway from this should be that make decisions about how many schools you can apply to and put your efforts towards in round two, aligned with the other responsibilities you're juggling, which is really work responsibilities. And if you are still about to give your standardized test, then you need to take that into account. But don't take on a target that is going to be really, really difficult for you to achieve, given the kind of things that you need to manage within the next 10 weeks.
I also want to ask you a question about this, Natasha.
Yeah,
What if somebody gets laid off? I mean, they haven't
yeah.
quit, but they got laid off at the point of application.
And I think that's actually something that is really a cause for a lot of concern, but it need not be. If you are someone who is in an industry where there are large scale layoffs, or you're in an organization which has taken that decision, it's not something that should concern you, because it's something that schools will understand, that you have been placed in a position where you have no control over the situation. You do need to provide context, however. So whether that means utilizing the optional essay to explain the circumstances that have come about, it is something that can work in your favor. What also will work is if you are in a period of time where there is really nothing that you can do about your employment situation. And there could be various life situations, right? Like you could be acting as a full-time caregiver, you may have been laid off from your job. You need to still tell the school that you are focused on your professional development. So if you have used that intervening time to perhaps register for a professional course, to invest in your developing your skills, maybe volunteering, doing some pro bono work, stepping outside of your comfort zone, and maybe taking on professional aligned responsibilities, this will really show them that you are committed to the path that you have charted for yourself. The kind of ambitions you have, they make sense. And I think it's not necessarily something that will go against you.
Yeah, basically stay engaged. Okay, and you don't,
Yeah.
you can't find a job immediately. You could look at some of your interests, that you're truly passionate about, and follow those interests, or commit yourself to those interests for a short period of time. Schools generally do realize, when large scale layoffs happen. For instance, Amazon has just announced that they're going to lay off 30,000 people. Now, I mean, everybody's aware of that. When there is a downturn in technology, schools are aware that it's outside your control. They do not, it doesn't go against you if you're laid off. But like Natasha rightly mentioned, you need to uh, do something, be engaged with something to show that you're committed to the path that you've taken. Now, related to that, Natasha, let's talk about at what point in someone's career should they think of applying to business schools?
Yeah, I think this is something that there's a range of questions that we get around this, right? So there will be individuals who wonder whether they should apply for an MBA right out of their undergrad, and this is something that could be considered maybe a traditional path, and they want to understand whether this is going to work in a global context. And on the other side of like that spectrum, we have individuals who have dedicated 5, 6, sometimes even 10 years to their career, and they wonder whether now is the time when they should consider investing in an MBA, because they've hit either they've hit a ceiling, or they feel that they've invested a lot of time in growing, but there's a point at which they feel the need to step away and invest in some structured intervention. So I think the answer to that is it really depends on the kind of program you're targeting. And Anju, I'm going to like rely on you for some of these answers as well, because um, I think there are different ways in which you can look at entry into an MBA program. If you're still a college student, you may be thinking about a deferred spot, and we'll come to that conversation in a little while.
In a bit,
But
yes.
you truly get the value of an MBA program when you have a few years of experience under your belt. And that is important because you will develop perspective, you will understand, you will experience problems, you will experience work challenges, you will work towards them, you will learn how to interface with stakeholders, you will understand how to make decisions in ambiguity. You'll make mistakes, which is great because it will give you insight into what you need to do next. But if I were to tell you the ideal time when you'd start thinking about an MBA, it would be anywhere between about 3 to 3.5 years, ranging up to about 6 years of work experience, if you're thinking of a 2 year full time program. There are cases, such as maybe a lot of the European programs, where if you have 5 years plus work experience, you'd be a great candidate. And of course, Anju, I also wanted to touch on, and it would be great if you could share your views on applying for executive programs or even Gemba programs.
Okay. So here's the thing. This is something else that you need to evaluate while picking a school. At what point in your professional journey are you? Okay. If you've got, like Natasha said, 3 to 5, 6, 7 years of work experience, a regular 2 year MBA program is probably the right fit for you. But if you have about 8 or 9 or 10 years or plus of work experience. There are a few other programs like the MIT Sloan Fellows, the Stanford MSX, the LBS Sloan Fellows program, which are 1 year accelerated programs for mid-management professionals, and it might work better for you to do those programs. In terms of the regular program, INSEAD has a highly accelerated 10-month program. So it'll work for you if you have anywhere between 5 to 10 years of work experience. Now, if you've crossed that threshold of 10 to 12 years of work experience, what should you do? Should you look for a regular MBA program or even one of these fellowships? It may not work for you. At that point, you may be too senior, and your pure learning from your cohort may not be
Yeah.
you may not get enough peer learning from your cohort, and you might want to look at the executive MBA programs. Now, executive MBA programs are designed primarily for mid to senior level professionals who want to upskill themselves after having worked for 10 plus years, and also want to, of course, network with a cohort that is at a similar stage professionally. Right now, these programs are you primarily should be in the region where you are doing the executive programs, because you have certain touch points. It could be a weekend program where you go in every weekend, or you go in once a month, and the other times, you could do this online. And if you're an international professional who wants to do an MBA program, an executive MBA program overseas, this might not be a good fit for you. In that case, what you will have to do is look at the GEMBA programs. These are the global EMBA programs. Duke has one, INSEAD has one. There are several other schools which have this program, where you have online classes, and then every quarter, there are touch points. So you either visit the campus, or somewhere else, some other geography where the entire cohort meets, and they have sessions conducted over a period of time, a few days or a week. So those are the programs that might work better for you in that case. Natasha, while we are at the number of years of work experience, we spoke about the regular MBA programs, requiring at least 3 to 5 years of work experience. Another question that we normally get is, are there programs where I can apply to if I'm at the lower end of work experience? For instance, if I have 1 or 2 years of work experience, what should I do? And I do want to apply. For whatever my reasons, I may have different reasons for wanting to apply at this point in time. Can I just talk about a few programs that you could probably look at?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Anju. We should look at some of these.
Yeah. So there are a few schools which look at the impact that you've created while working, instead of just the number of years that you worked there for. Okay. So you could, if you are at about, let's say, 2 years of work experience, I wouldn't say less than that. I mean, a 1 year or lower than that is just really too less to apply to business school. I don't think you've built a perspective to go to business school. But if you have about 2 years of work experience, you could apply to schools like Cambridge Judge, which are open to people who have 1 year plus of work experience at the point of application. So about 2 years at the point you get there. Duke Fuqua is open to looking at applicants with lower work experience. NYU Stern will look at you. So there are some of these schools that you could potentially look at if you are at the lower end of work experience.
But I think the main thing to remember is that you are a great applicant to business school with the addition of work experience. So, keep in mind that any work experience you have, if you can have sustained experience for over 2 years, you're going to be exposed to a wide variety of scenarios, situations, responsibilities. You will see growth, and you really want to apply to business school when you have a range of experiences under your belt, which will enable you to contribute, in a far more intentional manner to classroom discussions.
Right. All right. So
And
we
with
were
that,
earlier.
I think it's a good point for us to speak about deferred admissions, because I think that is something that it ties into this whole element of when do I apply.
Apply. Yes. So we, Natasha touched upon the deferred MBA program earlier. Very gray area. A lot of people are confused about what a deferred MBA program is about. A lot of people are not aware of it either. So schools, there are certain schools, they're not very many, they're not as many as the regular MBA programs, but there are about 10, 12 schools which allow you and give you the opportunity to apply for a business program while you're still in the final year of your undergraduate studies or your postgraduate program, provided there is no gap between your undergrad and your postgrad, right? So either you can apply when you are in the final year of your undergraduate studies, or if you've done your postgrad immediately after your undergrad, you can apply for it in your final year of your postgrad program. Now, here you will, if you get admitted, your MBA will be deferred by anywhere between 2 to 4 years. I mean, schools like HBS allow for a 2 year deferment. Schools like Wharton allow for up to 4 years of deferment. So you can then you get a confirmed seat by the time you graduate college, and you go into work for 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, or even 5 years. Some schools allow that, and then you have a confirmed seat, a confirmed MBA spot, and you can go into the MBA program. Now, what this does is, applying for the deferred MBA program, does it, of course, it gives you peace of mind. You've got a confirmed spot, so 2, 3 years, 4 years down the line, you don't have to stress about applying. But please remember, this is for students who have a very, very, very strong profile. Schools are primarily looking for students who you know who they want to catch. Kind of, it's like an early bird situation where they say, we want students who have very good profiles, and we want to kind of net them early in the process. Okay. uh, it's ideal for those candidates who really know where they are headed in terms of their careers, who have clarity of goal, of their goals, and of their professional trajectory, and they are sure that they want to do an MBA. The other thing that students or candidates normally ask is, what happens if I do not get admission into a deferred MBA program and I apply to the regular MBA program? Natasha, do you want to address that?
I think it's important to realize that if you've not received and admit to a deferred spot or for a deferred spot in the class, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because when by the time you're ready to apply in the regular intake for the regular intake, you will be someone with the added advantage of the intervening years of experience. And you do need to realize that you're not really a reapplicant in the truest sense of the word. With the intervention of about 3 or 4 years since the deferred application, you will be considered, in most cases, you will be considered as a new applicant. And your profile will be evaluated on the merit of the experience and what you're bringing to the school at that point in time. So it's really nothing to worry about if you did not receive a deferred admit. You still, with the intervening years of WorkX, and as long as you've made that effort to really grow your profile, you should be at an advantage, and your application will be considered, not necessarily as a reapplicant. You will be considered as a fresh applicant.
Fine.
Anju?
Yeah, just remember that you will need a standardized test score even at this point to apply to business school. So you
Yes,
need to
exactly.
get out of the way in your second year, third year. I mean, if you're doing a 4 year program, by the third year, you should have got your standardized test out of the way. If you're doing a 3 year program, then by the second year of college, you should have got that, standardized test out of the way. I see somebody who sent us a hi, billionaire vibes. Is there something that you'd like to ask? If you have any questions, please put them in the comments box. Okay. Natasha, I would like us to address the big three in the MBA space, the Harvard, Stanford, and Wharton, aspirational for anybody and everybody who applies to these programs. What are these programs, looking for in candidates?
I think the thing to remember is that if you have Harvard, Stanford, or Wharton on your radar, you do need to start researching these schools fairly early in the process. Two reasons. A, because you need to understand the kind of cohort that you're entering. And with Harvard and Stanford, if you want me to spell out for you what they're looking at, and this is something that you will need to address in all parts of your application, not just the essays. They're not necessarily only looking for you to tell them why the school is attractive to you. And they have the kind of legacy, they have the kind of standing that they realize the value of the resources and the network and the opportunities, the experiential learning opportunities they offer you. What they want to really align with or understand from you is how are the scale and the transformational capability of those schools going to align with the skills that you've already brought into play on your own. So what they're really looking at is, I think, three things. One, they're looking at a really strong sense of self. Do you know, what is important to you professionally, and do you understand what your ambition is? Are you able to spell out your ambition beyond using general terms like I want to be the best, I want to be the top, I want to go to the best school, because that's really not going to hold water. You need to be able to articulate what your sense of self is. What are your ambitions and what have you done to work towards them? They want to see an orientation to action. That's point number two. They want to see if you have really put your money where your mouth is. Have you taken first steps to create impact? Have you, if you have a value system, how do you act in accordance with that value system, and how does that set you apart from your peer group, from your cohort in undergrad, or even at work amongst your colleagues? The third thing that they really want to see, and this is important to spell out, is an ever increasing sphere of impact. They want to understand how your actions and you think about not only influencing individuals and communities around you, but you're really able to take that idea which is mission focused, and you're able to turn that into an ability to scale impact, to impact an ever increasing population. And that is really what tells them that you are ready for a transformation. You're ready to have your perspective of the world challenged, which is going to help you to grow. They are ready to be part of a really competitive, yes, but also equally mission focused cohort of individuals who are going to enrich you, to will expand your perspective, your worldview, and show you opportunities that, given your action orientation, you can take further. So is it enough to tell them that you have a great GMAT score? It helps, but it's not something that's going to necessarily make the cut. What is important for them is to demonstrate consistency in your actions, to show discipline, and to, like I said, most importantly, show that you can really take those key skills and create impact and scale. If you are able to demonstrate that, they know that they are the next logical pit stop on your way forward. So these are things that you need to keep in mind. Of course, when we work with applicants, we typically help them bring those elements out and articulate them in a way that shows the school that path, but those raw ingredients do need to exist.
Natasha, uh, candidates
So,
typically.
Anju, I feel that it's important to realize this, but I also feel that apart from, no, please continue. There's
No,
a
go
lag.
ahead. There's a lag. Yes, there seems to be a lag. Sorry about that, everyone who's on the call. Please put in any questions you might have on the comment section, and we'll be happy to answer those. Natasha, I what I wanted to ask you is, and this is something that we see very often. Applicants seem to just use HSW in the same breath. Okay, there are three very different schools. There are three very different applications. Would you like to talk about how the applications are different? How is a Harvard and a Stanford and a Wharton, different from, the other?
I think there are three unique elements that each of these schools look at. With Harvard, they really want to understand who's going to benefit from the case study classroom. So you do need to demonstrate a mission focus. You need to be able to have consistent ambition, leadership, curiosity about the world, and they want to understand how you act on it. If you are someone who absorbs perspectives from others and is able to integrate that into a vision, it's a very key part of how you're going to benefit from a case study classroom. If you are thinking of Stanford, are you someone who lives by a value system? Do you think about profitability or do you think about impact? Are you someone who would take the right decision over the profitable decision? And how can you take those ideas and influence situations and circumstances around you to benefit the greater good? Those are values that, if you are able to speak to with examples, will really go a long way in impressing the school. If you are thinking of Wharton, you need to think about how you work and build collaborative environments that enable everyone to contribute, to be included, and to work towards solutions. If you are thinking of applying to Wharton, you should not only think about what you will gain from Wharton, but what can you really give back to the community, not only when you're on campus, but even after you have left the school. So I think there are very three distinct thought processes that need to be applied to each of these schools.
Thank you for that, Natasha. I don't think we could have put that better. It's almost like three things that you should do to, when you're applying to each school. All right. We don't see any questions, but what I would like to add here is that if you want to have further conversations about your applications, if you're looking to apply in round two or even next year in round one, please do reach out to us at team.mba@theredpen.in, and there is a phone number that you can connect, that you use to connect with us. It's there on the comment section. GMAT Club has put that. Um, Before we kind of wind up, the last thing that we would like to talk about today, Natasha, is other geographies that you can apply to outside the US, and what's the value of applying to a UK, Europe, Asia, or even India. Okay.
Yeah. And I think these are valuable discussions. We're at a point where there is immense value in each of the geographies that Anju's mentioned. And it is in your advantage to be well informed. It is to your advantage to be well informed as an applicant about what do other geographies really offer us. We see two areas that you should research. Is you should think about MBA programs in the UK and in Europe. And within Europe, you want to think about opportunities in France, you want to think about Spain, you want to think about Germany. You can think about some of the, specific offerings in,
Netherlands.
even Netherlands as well. And you need to understand that European programs are structured very differently and have a very different advantage as opposed to US schools. For the first part, you have a truly international experience with up to 80 to 85, 80+% of the class from different countries. You do have a lot more flexibility in program duration. So you're looking at shorter programs, you're looking at programs that are more cost efficient, and you're also looking at living expenses that might work out more cost efficient for you, during the time that you're there.
Yeah,
These schools
obviously,
have
when
global
you are
reputations and global placements.
sorry, I think there
Please
seems to be
continue,
a
Anju.
lag, Natasha. Sorry, there seems to be a lag. Please go ahead.
So you really want to think about their reputations. These schools hold their value and their placements are global in nature. So you're looking at placements that don't only focus in the geography that they're in, but they also hold their value in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia, and in the US as well. So you really want to think about cost, you want to think about the flexibility of the program, and you really want to think about the international experience that you're hoping to have. Anju, you want to add to that?
Yes. So typically, what happens with these, European programs is that, uh, for instance, LBS, almost 80 to 90% of its cohort is international. So, you do get a very wide exposure if you go to a school like LBS. Again, we were talking about flexibility. Even in their regular MBA program, you have the option to quote unquote exit at different points, during the program. So you can, load up your course load, and you could exit at 15 months, you can exit at 18 months, or you could do the full, 20 month or 22-month program. So they offer you that kind of flexibility because they are shorter. Obviously, your ROI is, you have a better ROI on the programs. Your tuition cost is lower, your living expenses are lower, and you have a quicker path to learning, and getting back to the workforce. Now, besides, of course, Europe and UK, and I'll just talk about a few programs in the UK. You have, of course, besides the London Business School, you have Oxford Side, Cambridge Judge, you have Imperial, Warwick. These are some of the prestigious programs in the UK. In Europe, in Spain, you have IESE, which is pronounced ASA, IE, ESADE. In Netherlands, you have Rotterdam. In Germany, you have the Meinheim program. In France, you have HEC Paris and INSEAD. INSEAD has, a fall intake and a Jan intake. So there is, again, a lot of flexibility. You want to do a truncated 10-month program, you can go in for the fall program. But if you want an internship, and you can go in for the Jan intake, which is a 12-month program. Besides this, I would also, before we move on to Asia, I would also like to talk about the job opportunities in the UK. The UK offers the graduate route, where it used to be 2 years, now it's 18 months. They allow you to stay back for 18 months and work. Typically, a lot of these programs, ASA told us last year that they recruit extensively in the UK. So there is a lot of mobility within the Eurozone and UK, if you are applying to one of these programs. So even if you've studied in France, you could work in Switzerland, in Germany, in Spain or Italy or any of these countries. I mean, honestly, today, Germany is opening up and giving work visas to a lot of qualified Indians. So, yeah, I mean, there's a huge opportunity there. Uh, uh, so while UK gives you the graduate what Europe, what the EU, the schools in the EU do is, if you've graduated from an MBA program there, you are given 1 year to look for a job. Of course, you'll have to sustain yourself, but you can still stay in the Eurozone and you can look for a job. And after you've got a job, if you meet certain criteria, and they're not very difficult to meet, right? If you meet certain criteria, you can apply for a work permit. And unlike the US, where there is, or the UK, where there is a cap, even the H-1B has a cap, or your OPT has a cap, here you could work for a much longer period of time. So, there's a huge advantage there. There are some schools in Asia. Natasha, would you quickly want to cover the Asian advantage, and, then we can wrap up?
Yes, I think then we can take any questions. I think when you think about schools in Asia, it's important to remember why these schools are so attractive. The programs that I would recommend that someone research if they're truly interested in Asia, they would want to look at schools in Singapore. There's a plethora of options. They can typically think about schools like the Nanyang Business School. They can look at NUS. And these, are premium schools. All the schools I've mentioned have been very highly ranked by The Economist. Beyond that, they can think about ISB in India, and they can think of the University of Hong Kong's Faculty of Business and Economics, and all these programs. I think you need to look at the kind of advantages they would give you. They would place you right in the middle of extremely exciting markets. You have opportunities to build networks, which really would give you give you deeper connect within those markets. You want to also understand that all the schools that we've mentioned are in really vibrant multicultural cities, with access to big tech, to consulting, to PEVC firms, and have really rich entrepreneurial ecosystems. These are great factors to consider when you are looking at the value of the MBA and the kind of opportunities that would exist for you in these markets after graduation. So, growth economies like India or China, you're looking at a significant cost advantage compared to a lot of schools in European countries or in the US. And there's also focus. So there's the best of both worlds. You're working in these very distinct economies, but you also get the benefit of renowned faculty, of international faculty. In many cases, there are exchange programs with US schools, so you also get the experience and the benefit of exposure to very curated programs and faculty experiences in other schools. And a lot of business schools in Asia also adopt a learning by doing methodology or a pedagogy, where experiential learning opportunities are offered through case studies, through action learning projects, and internships with, like I said, these extremely exciting startups or new and innovative business ideas. So if you are thinking about the kind of experience that you hope to have, Asia is emerging to be a really exciting opportunity for you to explore. So
Yeah.
rather than thinking only in terms of reputation, which I agree is important, you may want to think about adapting to the future, and you may want to think about where you will be best placed to achieve your goals in the next 3 to 5 years. So these are also important factors in favor of considering other geographies.
I mean, three of the top five economies are in Asia. Whether it's China, India, Japan. Outside of Germany and the USA, they are the top five economies, and they are growth economies. We are seeing tremendous growth here. So we are on the clock. I don't see any questions, Natasha. I'm going to ask again if there's anyone who has any question. Otherwise, we can wrap this up. I'm just going to mention once again, you can reach out to us at team.mba at theredpen.in, or you can connect with us on WhatsApp, or you can send us a message on 917780769732. That's the phone number that we have.
And if you're watching this recording at a later point, GMAT Club will typically add these contact details to the description box. I think there are a lot of interesting points we've covered today. So I think reflect on it. And it's always worth having a conversation. You'll have a lot of information out there, but think about what you really want to achieve and ask targeted questions. Ask us what you think you would want to talk about. And we'd hopefully be in a position to really customize answers to the kind of concerns you have at this point in time.
Yeah. And good luck if you're applying in round two. And hope you get into a school of your choice. And if we can help
Yes,
you, let us know.
great. See you. All the best.
All right. Good night and good morning, wherever you are.